Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade, Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. Is it time to trade down your cards in grade? Does it make sense now to take a card that uh, you may not care for in your collection, or maybe one that you do that's in a higher grade, sell that card off and purchase a lower grade copy that still may have the same eye appeal, and take that money and purchase other cards? That's the question that Graig over at MidLife Sports Cards is asking everyone for his question of the week. And I have a couple thoughts on it, as well as something that's sort of closely tied to Greg's question, maybe not exactly, that I want to comment on as well. So, getting to Greg's main question. Is now a time to look through your collection and maybe find some cards that are in a higher grade that you may want to sell, get the prices that those cards are getting today out in the market, and then maybe purchase another copy of that card in a lower grade that still has some nice eye appeal. And in theory, if you're able to save some money there between what you could get for that high grade copy and what it would take to purchase a lower grade copy, and purchase other cards for your collection. Well, certainly for those on a small budget like myself, that may be a good way to sort of self-fund your collection. Take some cards, especially ones that maybe not doesn't fit what you're currently collecting or interested in, that happen to be in a higher grade. Sell those cards off, and whether you replace it with a similar copy or not, use that money to fund other purchases in your collection. And I think in general, I think that's a good philosophy. Now, there may be some special cards in your collection. I know I have some in my collection that are in higher grades, and I don't know, they look really nice, and I'm very happy with them. I'm not pressed to sell them and replace them with lower copies. But there may be another reason beyond monetary reasons to do that. There seems to be a growing trend regarding overall eye appeal of cards in your collection, especially centering. I know I'm a big centering guy, and I have some cards in my collection that aren't as well centered as maybe I'd like them. And those may be ones that I would decide to sell. Honestly, whether they're in high grade or low grade, sell those copies and take the funds and buy possibly a lower grade copy that has better eye appeal to me, most likely a better centered copy. So it may not be an issue of funding your collection. It may just be you're looking at some cards in your collection that you look at it and go, it's a little off center, and you look at it and you don't really like it as much as maybe you did in the past. People's collecting habits and what you want out of your collection change over time, and you may be looking more toward better centered copies of cards in your collection. So that would be a good opportunity to sort of upgrade by possibly downgrading the grade. Take a card in a certain grade that may be off center, sell that off, and buy a copy that's better centered, possibly in a lower grade, and even save some money in the process. Another reason why you may want to trade down, well, it is now the best time. Greg wants to know, is now the best time? Is there a trend right now of doing that? And as I alluded to earlier, anytime I think is a good time to decide to do that. Obviously, the best time to have done that was at the peak of the COVID prices. And I think there were some collectors out there that were seeing these crazy prices for some of the cards and said, hey, I need to take advantage of this. I have some cards here, for whatever reason, just don't fit, or they were higher grade copies, and they said, hey, I can sell this card for X amount of money. And then I can take that money and buy other cards. And maybe they took the opportunity to rebuy copies in lower grades and take the money and buy other cards in their collection. So I think the best time would have done it, hindsight being 2020, would have been around the pandemic and the bubble during the pandemic. Prices have come down now, obviously, since then, but cards in higher grades are still commanding a pretty good price for. And I think there is an opportunity to take advantage of that discrepancy between the higher grades and maybe one or two grades lower. There's still that multiplier that as you get into the higher grades, going from one grade up to the next one could mean a significant difference. Now, moving from a 4 to a 5, most cards, you're not going to see a huge amount of difference between a 4 and a 5. But going from a 7 to an 8 for certain cards, that may be a fairly big difference, and you can take advantage of that. The other thing that I wanted to mention that may not be exactly what Graig is asking everyone, but it's a trend that I have been seeing. I didn't write any numbers down or have any specific data. It's just a general sense of what I've been seeing, is that I do monthly videos where I do top 10 PSA vintage baseball card sales on eBay. And I've been noticing that there are a decent number of older slabs being sold that make up the different top 10 lists. And I'm wondering if there's another trend going on alongside maybe a trend of selling a high grade copy and then replacing it with a lower grade copy, maybe just to save money, or again to increase the eye appeal of the copy that you have. And that is, with the new grading standards today, especially with PSA, I'm noticing some of the cards that show up on my top 10 list that are in older slabs that most likely wouldn't get the same number grade if they were graded today by PSA. And I think there are some collectors out there that are trying to maybe get ahead of the curve a little bit and sell their copies in older slabs that, upon closer inspection, may not meet the current grading standards, and try to get them out of their collection, try to get as much as they can for it, and then take that money and replace it, maybe even with similar graded cards, the number grade, or maybe a grade or two less, maybe get a nicer eye appeal card in the process. But take advantage of that, because I think there's a trend also in not only cards with better centering and nicer eye appeal, regardless of the number grade. I think those are selling at the high end of the grade. I think there's going to be more of a trend of noticing older slabs, taking a look at the card and the grade, and if it doesn't look like the two really match up with the current grading standards, that those cards are going to start selling for less. So currently, you have in VCP, you have your average price for a card, and then you have the 12-month low and the 12-month high. That's how, for those of you not familiar with VCP, that's how they report current prices for a card. They'll do the 12-month average, and then they'll show the recent high and low price. And normally, if you have a card that has really nice appeal, eye appeal for that number grade, well-centered, excellent copy for that number grade, you may pay what I call a centering tax, or just the eye appeal price. And most likely, you're going to be paying at that upper end of that number grade, potentially in the price range of the grade above it, because it's such a high quality example for that number grade. But on the flip side, you could get a card that, again, upon closer inspection, you say, yeah, this card would not grade at that number today. And I think more and more collectors are looking more at the card and not the number on the slab, and are saying, yeah, that's not a 5. Today that would be no higher than a 4. And I think they're going to try to start to only pay 4 prices for that card, or at the very low end of, say, a 5. So I think there are some savvy collectors out there that are taking a look at their collection, seeing cards that may not meet the standards of today's grading, trying to get them out of their collection, and then, you know, potentially replace them, or again, take, if it's a card that really doesn't fit their collection, take that money, hopefully find someone that's just interested in the number grade, take that money and then put it elsewhere in their collection. So overall, I think, like I said, forget about where current market prices are. I think it's a good idea to look through your collection, and if there are cards that don't fit what you're interested in, maybe it's the cards themselves, regardless of the number grade or eye appeal. Maybe there's some cards that just don't fit what you want to collect right now. Take those cards, sell them, and then use that money to buy cards that you really do want in your collection. But obviously take advantage of especially higher grade copies of cards, and sell them off. And if you still like the card, you want the card, a copy of the card in your collection, take that money and then potentially drop down a grade or 2, find a really nice eye appeal, whatever your definition of eye appeal is to you, copy in a lower grade, and then take the remaining funds and buy another card or 2 for your collection. So, Greg, another interesting question that you have for everyone this week. It made me obviously think and bring up those examples of older slabs that I see being sold out there, and wondering if there's a correlation between just selling off high number grade cards and also dealing with the current PSA grading standards, and trying to get rid of those cards in your collection that may not fit the current grade, and then replace them with newer slabs of cards that sort of meet the number grade, if that's your thing. For me, I don't go off the number grade only to determine budget, like what I can afford, which cards in the display case or on eBay I can look through that are in my budget. And then to me, it's finding the card that has the right eye appeal for me. So again, Greg, another great question for everyone. We'll love to know in the comments, have you taken some cards in your collection that are in higher grade, sold them, maybe replaced them, the same card but in a lower grade, and taken the savings to buy other cards? Have you just pared down your collection, taking some cards, especially if they're in higher grade, and taking that money and funding other cards in your collection? So with all of that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.